but did it work? We're going to have to go over and check. Upcoming. Oh, it says it is. Very good. Okay, guys. Welcome to the second ever live stream at Returning Retro. Looks like we have a couple people watching. If someone wouldn't mind, Tyler, my man. Okay, thank you so much. I am glad it is working. So a little bit of a different setup this time, and a little bit of a different time and date, obviously. So tomorrow is my mom's birthday. So we are going to take the family up to visit the in-laws, and it was right when I was planning on doing another live, same time as I did last week. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this every week going forward, but I had a lot of fun doing it last time, and it was great to interact with the folks that were able to tune in. So I figured we could do it again this week. So yeah, let's, for people that are new here, I am Jake. This is Returning Retro. I started this channel and the Reddit page to go along with it, which, in fact, let me put that into the chat here. Returning Retro. And I do apologize, guys. I am so new to live streaming. I get more wrong than right, I'm afraid. But I'm glad that you're here with me and for all of your patience. So, yeah, I talked about this a little bit last time, but I figured it would be a good way to sort of bring people together that are in a similar space, whether that's the intentional tech sphere that have realized that things have gotten a little bit too crazy in terms of tech addiction and always online and managing all of the expectations that sort of come along with that, or from more of where I'm coming from originally, at least, the returning to something that once was, returning to a time when tech was fun, tech was exciting. I did a post about this today. In fact, okay, one thing that I really want to do today, guys, is utilize this OBS setup a little bit better. So, okay, let's jump over there. Okay, so I did this post today where, you know, I was just putting gas in the old minivan, Toyota Sienna, for those who are wondering. And I just kind of got thinking about things. You know, I had my family with me, and I was reflecting a little bit on why I started Returning Retro. There are a number of different reasons. I feel like in every video or post that I talk about, this is why I started Returning Retro. That's why I started Returning Retro. Well, they're all true, and I don't know which ones are necessarily more influential than the others, but the sort of kernel of all of it, or the core of all of it, is thinking about my kids and thinking about the world as it is now compared to the one that I grew up in. And so for folks that maybe experienced that in the past, it's going to be kind of returning. For those that maybe this is the first time and they're wondering, in fact, I was talking to, I cannot remember which of the SLEKE guys it was I was talking to, but we were talking about, he had asked me like, hey, so, you know, there's this nostalgia factor, like, was it really as good back then, you know, the late 90s, the early 2000s, as people tend to reminisce it being? And I just kind of had to level with them. I was like, yeah, I mean, there are some certain benefits to the state of technology that we have today, but at the same time, it's just, I feel like we've lost the plot a little bit with consumer technology, specifically mobile technology, or not even necessarily mobile technology. You can see the same problems that you see in social media with mobile devices as just on a computer or as kind of the online gaming. It's sort of, I think it affects men and women slightly differently. The book I've referenced many times. In fact, again, doing my best to utilize, not just sit here and talk the whole time. Let's see, The Anxious Generation. Let's pull this up here. Yes, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. For those of you who have not read this, or maybe even ever heard of it, I highly recommend you check it out. For me, it was something that kind of connected a bunch of dots to things that I had noticed over the course of the last maybe decade or two, but it kind of seemed all anecdotal. I was like, okay, is this a real thing that I'm noticing? Is there anything to back this up? Or maybe it's just my, you know, sample size of one situation where I'm noticing stuff that maybe isn't there. But he's got the evidence, the research. He cites all of his sources in this, and he talks about how it really is a massive shift that we have experienced. I believe in the book he calls it the Great Rewiring, where children switched from a play-based upbringing that was primarily spent outside or even indoors, but it was all very play-focused, to I can't remember if he calls it a screen-based or a device-based childhood, where it's the polar opposite. It's much less physical activity, much more in your little screen bubble. And it really has a great effect on kids growing up all through, especially if they have this screen-based upbringing before puberty. It can rewire their brain, and that's why he calls it the Great Rewiring, is because kids that go through this, their brain rewires in a way that those of us from prior generations have a hard time sort of relating to. But anyway, I was thinking about all of this, thinking about my own kids, and I thought, man, wouldn't it be great if we could perhaps, in our own little bubble of the internet, you and me and those of us here, make a little bit of a return to form, maybe turn back the clock a little bit in this one little specific way. And I started, hearing a little bit more about digital minimalism than really anything else. And I kind of started down that path, and I came to a little bit of a fork in the road, so to speak. I mean, these analogies are kind of all over the place, but I found that digital minimalism wasn't necessarily the best fit for me, especially as I'm starting a YouTube channel and a Reddit page. But the intentional tech area, the intentional tech community sphere part of the internet is something that I could really get behind. It just kind of rings very true to what I recall my upbringing being, specifically in the early 2000s, when I was a teenager going into my 20s and having consumer technology before the like and share had been introduced to social media, which, again, I even myself thinking about this, it's crazy for me to think that social networks, as they used to be called, or social networking websites, didn't have the ability to like a post or share a post or a comment. That all came a few years after these websites had sort of gone mainstream, and that changed the internet and it changed the world. So, but that's a little bit of a longer intro than I was planning on doing today. I wanted to give you guys a little bit, those of you that are here in the live, or those of you that are subscribers that maybe you've heard about this, a little bit of a preview of some of the things that I'm working on for the channel. So one of those, and I've had a couple of people talk to me about this. In fact, one subscriber earlier today was, I don't want to say asking me about, but more recommending some of the other items that I have talked about wanting to cover in Returning Retro that I haven't really gotten a chance to do yet, namely a little bit more focus on retro tech, which is going to be technology that is new production technology, but that brings back retro aspects. Some of that, could be applied to things like the minimal phone, where you've got a physical QWERTY keyboard. That isn't common at all anymore, and it used to be incredibly common. We often remember BlackBerry devices, but there were many, many devices. In fact, to my recollection, most, if not all, of the major OEMs of today that were active back in the early and middle 2000s, they were all making devices that had a full QWERTY keyboard, and not necessarily always smartphones. You had some feature phones as well that had the full QWERTY keyboard. I can remember, let's show you one here. One that I remember in high school was just super, I think it was high school, maybe shortly after high school, was made by LG. Let's see. Let's pull it up here. Okay, let's switch back over. So the LG Envy. Let's pull it up. Maybe Wikipedia has. Okay, so this shows the outer display where you had your T9. Obviously, this one is a Verizon branded one, and you had all of your controls here. But if we go to Google instead of DuckDuckGo, LG Envy, there we go. So you could open the device up into this beautiful full QWERTY keyboard on the inside. So you had essentially two phones in one. If you wanted the T9 experience, you could just leave the clamshell closed and you could use the outer screen and the outer keypad. But if you wanted to have a little bit more productivity capability, you could just open it up here. And again, this is just one. I know that Palm made a number of QWERTY devices. Samsung had QWERTY devices. BlackBerry obviously was sort of the popular kid in town, because those were the enterprise focused, the very strongest, most powerful smartphone devices of the time, at least again, as far as I can remember. If at any point you guys are like, Jake, what are you talking about? There was this device that you're curiously not remembering. Feel free to throw it in the comments, because I would love to remember those as well. But yeah, this used to be, all of the OEMs used to be making these devices, and then it stopped pretty much a short time after, relatively short time after the iPhone came out, and then shortly thereafter, Android also became very mainstream, and the rest, so to say, is history. Also, about the chat, feel free, if you have questions or comments, throw them in there. Don't wait for me. That we're not going to have necessarily a Q&A section, so throw them in there, and every so often I'll look at them, and I'll try to get to all the comments that I can. Because I appreciate, people interacting, and I want to make sure questions are answered or thoughts are acknowledged. So that's going to be more of your retro tech, where you have an older feature set or design elements even from yesteryear that are being brought into new production technology. The other area that I want to cover and am planning on covering more and more is vintage technology. Now, a lot of times, and I'm sure some of you have noticed this, so I speak German, I'm bilingual, and for some reason, I pay attention to words. Words have meaning for a reason. Vintage and retro are not interchangeable. Retro means new stuff that is done in an old fashion, or new production, whether it's software or hardware, that brings back design elements from a bygone era or from a previous time. Vintage is the actual old stuff. So a BlackBerry would be vintage for the most part. Some of the newer ones, like the Key 2, it's still kind of new-ish, I guess you could say. But for sure, something, like, well, let's see, what do I have here behind me? Sorry, guys. Okay, so here we go. My old Bold 9700, this would be a vintage device. It's an old device running old stuff used today. Compared to, say, the minimal phone, this is a retro device. I would call it, or at least that it has retro elements to it, because it is a new production device that has elements from before, from yesteryear. So I haven't really gotten much into the vintage side of things yet on the channel. I've kind of had a flurry of devices that I've wanted to cover kind of while they're still new, and people are going to be looking for more information about those. As you guys know, one of the big parts of Returning Retro for me is being a resource for people that are curious about intentional tech or vintage or retro devices, so on and so forth. And so the timing of it, people are going to be looking for that information when they're new or when they're announced or whatnot. And so I've kind of had a flurry of device unboxings and reviews, first impression videos, and that sort of thing so far, but that is by no means the only things that I want to cover. In fact, some of my first videos were more of the philosophical side of things, where I did, for example, an analysis of the movie WALL-E. I did just sort of my own musings about, the how, if the technology is so much better now, how come everything feels and seems so much worse than it ever was before? In fact, that was my, I think my first published video. I have a very embarrassing unlisted video that I'm probably not going to share with anyone, which was technically my first upload, but in any case. So I do in the future want to go a little bit more into not only the retro devices, but also just some of these, maybe philosophical isn't the best word, but less technical videos and maybe more practical videos, or even just more fun videos. So for example, I really enjoy vintage gaming. So for me personally, again, going back to trying to remember to use OBS the way I have it set up here. So let's go to camera and browser. Okay, so growing up, my first ever device was, oh shoot, where'd it go? Guys, what have I done? Oh boy. Bear with me here, guys. I do not know what I just did. Okay, here's this. Let's switch back over to, oh, there we go. Okay, we're back. Okay, we'll leave that there. So my first ever device is right here in my hand, actually, the Sega GameGear. This was something that my parents got, two of them. So I have two brothers. I'm the oldest of the three of us. And one year they were able somehow, and these were not cheap when they came out, to afford 2 Game Gears. And we were over the moon. I grew up, how do I want to put this? I grew up on a cattle farm. and we did not have a lot of financial flexibility, if that's what you want to, if that's what you might call it. And so the fact that we had not only a gaming system in the house, but two of them at the same time, my brothers and I were over the moon. Easy does it. Okay, that's probably gonna fall on my head later. But that was our introduction into video games. But we were confused when we went into Kmart and were asking for the Super Mario game for the GameGear. And we learned the difference between Sega and Nintendo, which, younger viewers might not even remember that Sega used to be one of the biggest players in not only the software, but also the hardware side of gaming. And so we learned, they don't make Mario games for Sega. We learned that difference and whatnot. But Mario, or Nintendo in general, I guess you could say, is one of my favorite, let's call it, entertainment companies. I can vividly remember some of the most entertaining times in terms of video games growing up were all based around Nintendo. So one of which being Mario 64. I don't know if this is my favorite. What the heck is this? Okay, that's terrifying. Anyway, I don't know if it's my favorite game of all time, but it probably would be my desert island game. If it was like, Jake, you could only take one game to a desert island for the rest of your life, what would it be? I think it would probably be Mario 64. I don't know what it is about it. I really enjoy it. So I want to talk about this on the channel a little bit more. Some other, the Legend of Zelda series. I want to talk about some of these items from the past that I still very much enjoy today. Again, going over some of that vintage stuff as well as some of the more philosophical stuff. I'm going to talk about sort of my process in returning retro, what's worked, what hasn't worked. These are going to be some of the things that I want to, again, if this is all interesting to you guys and this would be helpful or even, I don't know, fun to go over. So this is some of the stuff that's also going to be coming down the line. Okay, here we go. Let's see. We've got some... Okay, again, Tyler, thank you so much for confirming that the stream was working because I am a noob at this and I can never quite tell. Let's see. Roughly, not really sure quite how you pronounce your name there, friend. That definitely can't be done anymore. I wonder if you were referring to the QWERTY on the phones. I think that may have been about the time that I saw that comment pop up. So Maverick B. Evans, okay. That's pretty scary. Okay, so the extremely limited selection for phones that don't take control of your behaviors and digitally addict you seems really creepy and oppressive. I am deeply appreciative for your channel and efforts. Maverick, that is true. It is terrifying. I appreciate your appreciation, a double appreciate here, because it's true. Once you really get into sort of the nuts and bolts of it, and again, I am not an engineer, I am not a programmer. For those that don't know, I'm an accountant. My day job is, my degrees are in accounting, and so that's what I do. But kind of paying attention to the way things have shifted over the last 15, 20 years, and how there's a lot of free stuff out there, and how does the saying go? If something is free, you are the product, or you're the one that's being sold. I can't remember exactly how the saying goes, but this is something that is very true. Now, again, the companies, it's all supposed to be in the terms of service. So I personally am one that if I know what I am signing up for, I'm okay. If I am going to agree to the terms and I'm going to get, XYZ product or service for free, as long as I know and consent to that, that's okay. However, there are some things that I just don't want to consent to. For example, these companies using my data to train their AI models or to track my every move for planting very, very omnisciently knowledgeable ads in my feed. I don't know, that gets to me, it's a little bit too far. So as an example, recently, let's go over here. I switched over from Gmail to Proton. Now, Proton, Mailfence. These are two that I definitely recommend people to check out. I've used Mailfence for years. I used it kind of as a secondary account just to try stuff out. Proton has a much better interface, and I also like that they have very good offerings for cloud storage as well. And again, these are ones that I pay for. I pay for the ability to have a secure cloud email provider. They also, I found this out after the fact. I didn't even realize that, but you have a VPN service as well. So if you really don't want, or if you want that extra layer of privacy online, Proton has that all kind of bundled together. So this is something where, again, and not everyone's in a position to be able to do this. I understand that, but it is worth considering. And you can, there are some that are very, very cheap. I mean, the first Mailfence plan that here, let me just, so you guys can see, we'll go to Mailfence. So yes, you can see here, very, very bare bones. But for an email service, it works really, really great. But yes, I'm okay throwing a couple of dollars at these guys when I know they're not going to use my information for anything other than giving me access to it when I need it, or sending and receiving messages and that sort of thing. So that's something that, yes, Maverick, I think that very, very concerning. And the other side of that, really quickly, and then I see some other comments coming in, is these software and hardware solutions that we have nowadays are designed to suck us in and keep us there as long as they possibly can. And this to me is concerning because the internet's not a real place. Yes, it's incredibly important. Yes, there is incalculable things that we use the internet for, and for good. This is using it for good. However, I don't think we should live there. But these companies, whether it's the hardware or the software side, most of them want us to, because that's how they're going to get the engagement that they need. That's how they're going to get there, whether it's the ad revenue or whether it's the training the AI models and selling the data or whatever the case may be. The more time we spend interfacing with our devices, regardless of if they're portable or not, that they are incentivized to keep us glued to the screen. We should be incentivized to spend more time away from them, like it used to be, hence returning retro. So, okay, off the soapbox there. Roughly, me too, mostly the Mario Kart games. Okay, this may be an unpopular opinion, and I'm happy to take the flack for it, but in the era of Nintendo 64, Diddy Kong Racing, my friends. I don't know what it was. I mean, we had both of them, but my brothers and I, we just gravitated towards Diddy Kong Racing. I don't know if it was because you had the carts, but you also had the hovercrafts and the airplanes, or the different power-ups, or kind of how it wasn't just a racing game. It was kind of an adventure game as well. But yes, I definitely, nothing against Mario Kart at all. It's a great game, especially some of the newer ones. I mean, my wife and I will play Mario Kart 8 all the time, and really enjoy it. The kids love watching it as well. But yeah, I'm a Diddy Kong Racing kind of guy. So take that for what it's worth. A pretty scary Maverick. Yep, we already, okay. Brandon, my friend, were you amongst the Game Informer magazine? Game Informer, Brandon, yes. Though I must admit, like I mentioned, we weren't really able to have subscriptions in the returning retro household growing up, but every now and then I would pick up a Game Informer or a Nintendo Power, where at the store, or maybe even a couple of the larger gas stations used to have them in the magazine racks. If you guys can remember that, they used to have deals in them, and I remember getting a GameCube with Mario Sunshine at what felt like a steal. Oh man, a GameCube with Sunshine! I have now. For those of you that follow me over on the Reddit sub, I do occasionally post some thrift shop or yard sale finds or deals, and I've been looking for a GameCube. For some reason, where I'm at, Wii's pop up all the time. I mean, I have to stop myself from buying them just because I think I've got like 4 or 5 of them, just because it's like, yeah, okay, a Wii with all the stuff for like $20. How can I pass that up? But I need a GameCube. I've been looking for one. My brothers and I had one growing up. I think we pooled our money that we had earned doing summer jobs and whatnot, and bought one together. I think that's what we did with that one. But one of them has it currently, and so I'd love to get my hands on one. My wife had one similarly as well growing up, and she played that. But I believe that is either at her parents' house or maybe with one of her siblings, and so we need one in the house. Haven't been super motivated to go looking for one beyond trying to find one at a thrift shop, because the Wii can play the GameCube discs, and so that's kind of what we've done. But yes, Brandon, those magazines were something else. When you would get the news too. I mean, this was still when the internet wasn't super young, but these magazines would have like announcements and stuff that you would be waiting for. So yes, I appreciate you taking me back there, my friend. That was, I hadn't thought about all those, and there were many different magazines, but I specifically remember Game Informer was a huge one. Nintendo Power, obviously, as well. AKA the Viking, welcome to the chat, my friend. Extreme G for the 64 best racing game. Okay, I'm familiar with Extreme G, but I don't think I've ever played it. So this is one I'm gonna have to see if I can pick up, because yeah, and again, I don't have anything against retro gaming. So namely, if you're going to be playing copies of your games on more modern hardware. So whether that's, okay, let's go back over again. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to remember to use the these resources that I have set up. Let's see, what's a really popular one. Here we go. Let's switch over. Let's do this one. Okay, so this is just the first one that came to mind. AYN. These guys make retro gaming devices, and what that means is, I believe most of theirs, if not all of theirs, are Android based. They may have some of these newer ones. I haven't really followed them that much lately, so I'm not sure if maybe they've branched over into PC operating systems as well. But the Android retro gaming using emulators and whatnot, I've always had a very enjoyable experience. Not a perfect experience, but an enjoyable experience. So I enjoy retro gaming, namely using these retro hardware options with, the copies of games that I have. But anytime that I can, I prefer the vintage, the original hardware. So when it comes to N64, I like playing it on the N64. Same across the board. Today at a thrift shop, I might post about this. I found a PlayStation 2. I don't know what the story was on this, you guys, but I was able to find a PlayStation 2, all the cables, a controller, as well as 2 games, for those that are curious, the original Ghost Recon and Medal of Honor Frontline, I think is the one that it was, for $30. Now, it looks like it was never played. I mean, you know how you have the console, it sits on the thing, you got some of the sun bleaching that happens to discolor the plastic a little bit, you've got just the scratches and stuff. I swear this thing was maybe played once and then put in a closet and then, given to a thrift shop by maybe some parents or something like that. So, and again, this I was excited about this because I never had a PlayStation 2 growing up. I think one of my brothers may have picked one up a little bit later, after they had launched. I think maybe the Slim or the Super Slim or something like that. But PlayStation 2, which for a long time, and maybe still is, the best-selling video game console of all time, is not one that I have much firsthand experience with. So I'm excited. I was an Xbox guy. I remember thinking, man, Microsoft is going to make a video game console. Yeah, sign me up. And so that's what I did. In fact, a little story for you. I had a friend who's down the street whose mom worked at the closest Walmart to where I lived. And I had, heard that they were going to be getting some launch day stock. So I was able to, not only get one the day that it became available in the United States, but with a Walmart employee discount as well. And so that was very nice of her to do that for me. And so, yeah, I largely didn't really pay much attention to the PlayStation at all. We didn't have the PSX or the PlayStation 1 growing up. We had the Nintendo 64 and then, later the GameCube. And then I went ahead and purchased an Xbox and, yeah, so I'm really excited to, let me see if I can, I'm actually not even sure. I think the one that I have, let's see here. Oops. Let's go over here. Let's see which one, because I know that they make different, PlayStation always comes out with the regular and then they do different ones. Okay, so the one rear, the slim model, nope, that is not the one. Aha, okay, so the one that I found today, it does not have this big thing on it, which maybe someone knows what that is. Looks like some kind of maybe a networking expansion or whatever. Mine doesn't have that, but it's definitely this one, because I remember the on-off switch that devices used to have. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, tested it in the minivan after grabbing it at the thrift shop today, and it worked great. So and the oh my goodness, the music, for those of you guys that have played Medal of Honor Frontline, it has a very distinct opening score with a little intro. And again, that was one that I had played on Xbox, and so it just was like this whole full circle moment. While my wife was in Hobby Lobby for a minute, I was sitting in the van with the kids, hooking up a PlayStation 2 decades later and booting up one of my favorite games from growing up. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. Okay, real quick, going back here. Brandon, speaking of, I'll find you on Reddit. I have a GameCube without cables. I'd be willing to part with you. Are you interested? Brandon, I am interested. On Reddit, I am, let's see here, ps:/u/returning retro. Bam. I think that should take you to my, because I went ahead and did the Reddit page as well as my own personal account. It's just returning retro. So, but again, I'm Jake. You can call me Jake. You can call me returning retro. I don't mind. But yeah, I want myself and my fellow adventurers to be, super casual. So if you want to call me Jake, that's fine. If you want to call me returning retro, or even just, I've had some people call me returning. That's fine too. Yes. Okay. So Maverick back at GameCube was goated. Luigi's Mansion. Oh, Maverick, Luigi's Mansion. Okay. You guys are just bringing out the stories in me tonight. Luigi's Mansion, a very good friend of mine. Shout out to Derek and Nathan. If you ever see this, shout out to you. One of them had received Luigi's Mansion, and I was always super jealous. And so whenever I would go over and hang out with them, I'd watch them play it, and I thought it was so cool with the vacuum and with that. But I never myself got to play it until, I kid you not, a couple of months ago. Whose GameCube? That's what it was. I found the disc, and we played it on one of the Wiis. My wife and I, and the kids watched, and I was like, how did I miss this game? It was, and I think the reason we wanted to get it was because one of I can't remember if it was Luigi's Mansion 3 coming out, or the remake or the remaster of the second one or whatnot, but I convinced her. I was like, well, if we're going to play these games, we might as well start at the beginning. And so, yeah, we picked up Luigi's Mansion, played it through, and I just, man, what a cool game. But to my wife's credit, sweetie, she played it through mostly. A couple of times she called in some backup, and I learned the controller scheme, and we were able to beat it together. But 95% of the game, she did, with lots of encouragement and cheering from our kids. Let's see. I saw a mini GameCube with half-size SSD upgrade. Oh, a handsome retro device that still uses original discs. Very cool. Now, this is, Maverick, what you're talking about, this is really interesting. I have seen some of this coming up. What is the... Oh, shoot. Now I'm going to forget the name of it. Let me see if I can remember. Dang it. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just put the camera on me so that I don't embarrass myself with these super lame searching. The Analogue Pocket. Yes. Okay, here we go. So I don't know if this is exactly like what you're talking about, but this is something that I am somewhat familiar with. It's called the Analogue Pocket, and it's new hardware with some upgrades. So I guess you could call it technically retro because it's new production, but for old stuff. But it can actually play let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, it can actually play the original cartridges. And so it's like, what is this Frankenstein? Now, I don't have one of these. Maybe if folks are interested, I could try and pick one up. I know that they're not super cheap, like some of these retro gaming devices are. But yeah, this might be something I would consider getting in on the channel and going through some, because this is kind of both. It's kind of retro and vintage at the same time. So yes, I think that's cool that you had one of those. And I also saw something fairly recently that the GameCube was I think it might have been the most powerful among its peers in that console generation, but it was just really difficult to program for. And so games didn't really take full advantage of what the hardware was capable of. I don't really know the whole story there. I'm sure that there have been some videos made about that. But yeah, I heard that it was really, really powerful. And I enjoyed playing it a lot, you know, whether it was Smash Bros, Mario Kart, any of the classics I thought were really, really great on GameCube as well. Brandon, let's see. Beautiful Joe was the game I remember most besides Smash Bros. And then Maverick, Beautiful Joe, what a throwback. I absolutely love that game. Okay, guys, confession time again. I'm familiar with it. I know it has that very iconic art style. I've heard it's a wonderful game. I've never played it. This is going to be one that I'm going to have to experience as well, because I've heard nothing but good things about it. In fact, did I see that they were doing a remaster? Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But again, in any case, I prefer the original hardware. I like the whole vintage experience, including, now this is something that I've posted about a couple of times way back at the beginning of the Reddit page. I did finally pick up a CRT TV a couple of months ago, and am now able to enjoy some of those older ones like the Nintendo 64, for example. I'm excited once I get the PlayStation booted up, because the hardware, the gaming systems, the consoles themselves that were designed for those older TVs, it's just a different experience when you actually play them on those older TVs compared to the newer TVs that we have today. So this is something that I really enjoy, and they really do look pretty cool. And there's also obviously the whole nostalgia factor to it as well, when you can you know, see and you hear the noises that those TVs make, and they have those really, you know, those clicky buttons and whatnot. So yes, this is fun, guys. I'm enjoying this live tonight. Now I do apologize if you hear what sounds like a toddler yelling. My boy is not feeling so great. He's got a bit of a cough, so I have the monitor over here. So if you hear some racket, we may have to do a little bit of an intermission, and then I'll come back. Beautiful Joe, what a throwback! I absolutely love. Oh yeah, we already talked about. Okay, so awesome. Okay, guys. So yeah, so this is just an example, a couple of examples of things that I do want to incorporate into the channel more than I have up to this point, namely the vintage stuff that, you know, experiencing them today, or maybe even just talking about stuff as it was, and in hopes that we can maybe influence some of that coming back again, as well as more of the, you know, less technical and more practical stuff. One of the videos that I'm working on right now is going to be, it'll be called something to the effect of the returning retro formula, or, you know, how to return retro, or something to that effect, that is kind of a formula, or maybe a recipe, or just a breakdown of techniques or habits that I have developed, that I've been working on developing, rather. I'm by no means perfect at this, that have worked. Maybe talk about some of the stuff that doesn't work that I hoped it would, but stuff like that, stuff that, again, that's a little bit more practical, a little bit less technical, maybe a little bit more philosophical as well. But mostly I do want to incorporate some stuff that's just a little bit more fun as well. So the other thing, just by way of a little bit of an update for everybody. So Minimal Phone, I did take my SIM out, and because, okay, here we go. This is something I wanted to talk about. When I do my real world reviews, I use a device exclusively so that I can get a real idea of what using that device is like as my only device. I want to be able to give you feedback as if that were the device you were considering getting, and wanting to know what it would be like if it was your only device. I mean, not everyone wants, or let alone is able to have multiple devices that they're, you know, switching around and whatnot. And so I personally, when I do these real world reviews, I do my very best, and without any exception so far on the channel, but I put that little precursor and that little disclaimer to use it as not only a primary device, but as an only device, so that I can, I mean, case in point, you know, with the Minimal Phone, or this was the case with the Highbreak Pro that I did videos on, if I were in a bind, if I had a secondary device, I might just give in to the frustration, grab that device, do my thing, and be done with it, and never learn, and therefore be able to express to you guys what the experience is like doing it on that primary device. And so that's kind of my mentality for now. That might change, you know, as demand comes in for people wanting, you know, my take on different devices. I may need to mix that up a little bit, but for now, a real world review on Returning Retro is going to be me having used that as my exclusive device during that time period, to be able to give you guys the best overview of a real world use case for that device so that you can make good informed decisions for yourself. So the SIM card came out of the minimal phone and went into what I've seen some people call the Clixel, where it's a Pixel 9 in my case, but the 9 Pro also fits in this with the Clix keyboard case. Very different than the minimal phone. But good. It is really, really good. I have one coming. I think that it will be here. In fact, let me see if I can find it. I have one on order for the Razer, and it was supposed to be here, I think, at the end of May. Okay, here we go. Someone has shared this, and this is, I think, word for word, the same email that I got. We expect that you will receive order tracking from our international carrier on June 24th, and will receive your Clix keyboard shortly after that. So I have been using the Clixel, the Clix with Pixel, for about a week or so, just to get an idea of it. I think I will end up turning it into a full review. I wasn't sure if I was going to try and incorporate the Clix for Pixel as well as the Clix for Razer, also known as the Razorberry, or I guess the new Razorberry, because there have been a couple of different iterations of Razorberry over the course of the last couple of decades. But I think I might do a dedicated Clix for Pixel review, because going through the Clix subreddit, as well as some info from Crackberry Kevin, the Pixel one is a little bit different in that it's a little bit wider. The buttons are a little bit bigger. They're a little bit more spaced out. And so for me, with my, like I mentioned, growing up on a ranch, my cattle rancher hands, I feel like that extra size to the buttons and that extra space between buttons might be really, really helpful in the overall typing experience. Little preview here. Right now, let's see if I can, you can kind of see the minimal phone's keyboard is more spaced out. The buttons are a little bit smaller, but they are more spaced out. For that reason, I can type a little bit quicker and a little bit more accurately with the minimal phone than with the Clix for Pixel. Okay, let's see. I see the chat going. Howdy. Screen sensitive. Welcome to the chat, my friend. My goodness. Folks, for those who have not screen sensitive or that don't know, Screen Sensitive just did a wonderful video, which was kind of my introduction to color e-ink monitors like that you would use for a computer. Awesome video. Screen Sensitive, if you want to, please share the link to that here in the chat. I want people to go over and see that. I'd pull it up, but I would be probably much slower at it than you are. but yeah, guys, go over and check out Screen Sensitive's channel if you're not familiar with it. He's put out a couple of really great videos so far, and I'm excited for more to come there. Maverick back again. The limo of phones with the Clix attachment. Razorberry seems like the only functional option. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about sort of the elephant in the room with Clix for any device except the Razer. So this, just so you can see maybe a little bit zoomed out and from the rear, you can see it is just a very, very tall setup. And this is the Pixel 9. If you had, do I have it in here? I do. Bear with me, guys. This is for the let's see if I can get the bottoms about the same height. This is for the 15 Pro Max, and so the 16 Pro Max is going to be pretty similar in size there. So bigger even than a really big setup. So is it top heavy? Yes. Now I see people comment about this all the time. Again, Maverick, not that you were necessarily sharing this sentiment, but it's unusable, it's trash, it's garbage, it's so top heavy, it makes it so big, it's unusable. Well, first of all, most of these comments aren't from people using the device. They just go off of what it looks like. But not all of them. Some of them I do know have used them and just it wasn't a great experience for them. And that's fine. You know, people can try stuff out and it may or may not be their cup of tea, so to speak. So my response to this is, does it make it top heavy? Yes. Does it make it a little bit awkward to use? Yes. Can you get used to it? In my case, mostly. But at the end of the day, I enjoy using my Pixel more with clicks than without clicks. All of that stuff, bearing all of that stuff in mind, I still prefer it with the clicks than without. So you have to make some adjustments, fitting it in your pocket, fitting it in a cradle in your car and whatnot. You might have to adjust some stuff that way. But yes, it is a limo. I think I called it an aircraft carrier the first time I tried using it, just because how long and top heavy it makes it. But again, I still do prefer using my Pixel with it as opposed to without it. Okay, let's go back to Brandon. The minimal phone subreddit is giving me such pause lately, but I definitely still want it. Interesting, Brandon. Feel free to elaborate a little bit. Are there any particular comments that have been made or any particular aspects that are giving you pause? I can think of a couple off the top of my head, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that, and maybe I could talk about some of them in my experience over the last couple of months. Again, my minimal phone was not purchased from Minimal. In order for me to get one in, I bought it secondhand, and I'm glad that I did, because I ended up getting the Panda version, the limited edition. I think they only ended up making 100 of this, where you have the white webbing but with the black keys, as opposed to the Fusion color that they have available from their website. So very good. So yes, so I'm using the Clixel, I think, as they call it currently. Probably going to do a full review video on that alone instead of combining it with the Clix for Razer. That's what I'm using right now. So, couple of things coming on the channel. I've had a couple of companies send me some devices, and a big thank you goes out to them. So one that I'm going to do an unboxing video of and go into the day-to-day use of it is this little guy right here. It is called the SlingTV Box. So I haven't opened it yet, because when I do my unboxings, I like to do, I leave the plastic on. I want you guys to experience it at the same time that I do. And so this is something so what is this thing? I don't really know what to call it. I've heard some people name this type of a device a Chinese Android TV box. I don't know if there's a more technical term for it, but it's kind of like a Roku stick or a Chromecast on steroids. So this one, well, in fact, let's do this, guys. And I don't want to keep you guys too long. I do understand that it is a Saturday night, but let's see. Here we go. Let's go back over here. Okay, cut your cord. The SlingTV Box S5 Max Hot. That is a mouthful right there. Okay, so it has 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigabytes of eMMC built-in storage, and it's running Android 12. So for me, and now going through here, it's kind of giving me all kinds of ads for things. Their claim to fame with these Chinese TV boxes running Android is you don't have to pay for cable, you don't have to pay for subscriptions. You can stream anything you want. And even here from their website, you can see they've got a listing of all the different channels in all of the different regions. As for me, I'm not a super big fan of streaming. I'm very much a physical media guy. I've had some terrible experiences with streaming lately. And so for me, what actually is very intriguing about this device is you have this built-in storage. So I'm curious to see what my experience will be like setting this up as kind of a little home media hub where I can just put, copies of my discs and stuff, that I've ripped and saved in MP4 or AVI or whatever it is, and put them on this so that I can essentially have the best of the streaming convenience of, having the remote, like you can see here. Again, I haven't done the unboxing yet, so I will confirm whether this stuff is in there, without the stress of the streaming subscriptions. So, okay, here we go. We got some people talking. Brandon, I feel like thumb placement would balance it a bit. Yes, and there are ways. if you're referring to the Clixel or just a Clix keyboard case in general, Tyler, you can learn how to hold it in a way that makes it much more doable. That's not super intuitive. You have to kind of train yourself to do it. In fact, what I would do is I would put a pop socket right here down towards the bottom so I could use a little bit of additional leverage. I found that I couldn't type quite as fast when I was doing that, and so I've kind of trained myself to do it a different way. But yes, it does take some training, and it is you can get used to it. You can do better than just grabbing it for the first time and giving it a go. Okay, Brandon, seeing folks having trouble with service, SIM cards, and texts as one. Yes. Okay, Brandon, I'm not sure. I briefly covered this in my video, my real-world review of the Minimal phone. There are some service connectivity issues. So I ran into I can't remember if the message is service unavailable or server unavailable. When you try to call someone, it doesn't work. It drops everything. Seemingly doesn't affect people calling you. I don't know what that's about, but I did reach out to the company and they said toggling airplane mode quickly should fix the issue. And if not, you can try Google Fi. It's supposed to not have as many issues. If not, buy minimal phone service. They do offer their own phone service at this point, which I thought was not an ideal solution set, just because some people have a great plan that they want to stay on. I did run into the server unavailable issue more when I was using US Mobile, specifically on their Warp/Verizon network. It would happen quite not super frequently. I mean, it wasn't every time I tried to make a phone call, but one time when I was driving and I tried to call my wife, I needed to talk about something, not an emergency, but something that was urgent, and in the car trying to fiddle with not ideal at all, definitely not safe. The other time, or other two times it happened, and I did happen to, before I even reached out to Minimal, decide, hey, I'm going to try one of these Google Fi, new unlimited plans where you get a lot more than you had for less money or whatnot. And so I did have that happen way less frequently with Google Fi, but it did still happen a couple of times where I went to make a call, server unavailable, canceled everything. So I had to do the airplane mode thing and whatnot. Again, it still works, but like if you're in an emergency, in fact, I don't think AKA the Viking would mind me sharing this. He had a situation where he was in an emergency and needed to make a call, and it didn't go through when he needed it to. So yes, I do not hold that against you, Brandon, for being a little cautious. Using it in what I call Jake mode, where I just do calling, SMS and MMS, a single messaging app, which for me is Telegram, and a single e-reader app, which for me is Read Era Premium. I didn't really have any issues with it, except for a couple of times when I got that server unavailable thing with US Mobile, and I think it maybe happened to me one time with Google Fi. Maybe it happened 2 times in a row, but when I was trying to make the same phone call. So yeah, it's not, I don't know. There are some issues there that they need to work out. I'm thinking that they're probably software related. Minimal Company said that it was on the carrier's side that was being caused. But I've used a number of different phones manufactured outside of, your regular OEM sphere without any issues at all. So I think it's something that they are aware of and hopefully that they're working on. Let's see. I've had mixed reviews on Sling in general. I'm curious about the channel selection. Now, one thing that I was confused about here, Tyler, this is not the same thing as... This is not the same thing as this. I don't know why they named it what they did, but Sling, I think it used to be called SlingTV. Shoot, I just realized I am not where. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. You were not seeing what I was trying to show you. This SlingTV, or now I guess it's just Sling, is not the same as SlingTV Box. This is something where I think they tried to cleverly name their product to try and get people to accidentally find them if they were looking for SlingTV. So I thought that same thing myself, and it is not the same thing. Sounds similar in the name, but it is a different company. It is a different service. So bear that in mind. Sling in general. Okay, Brandon. Shipping and faulty parts. Yes, the shipping is very, 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 very slow. They have limited batch runs that they're doing. I think just because they're a newer company, their capital is limited in terms of the amount of funds they have available to. This is something that I've actually, talking with a couple of different companies that are kind of in this sphere. Manufacturing a phone is not cheap. And manufacturers are only going to make it for you if you order a certain amount of units. And so, yes, they have all kinds of stuff that they are sort of working within a very specific framework that has a number of challenges. And yeah, I think that it has led to some unexpected issues. I know that they have some work that they need to do in their comms area. So yeah, delays. Some people haven't gotten their devices in any sort of a timely manner. Yeah, don't expect it quickly. I think you can expect it. I mean, people have been starting to receive their devices, but do not expect it to be quick. I personally would recommend waiting until on their website it shows as in stock instead of in, sort of pre-order status. That's what I would personally recommend. Okay, let's just go back here. Martin, glad to have you, Martin. I rewatched parts of your last video with Zinwa daily. Can't wait for that Q25. Yes, the Q25 project I am super excited about. For people not familiar with it, there is a programmer who goes by Zinwa. He is bringing back the BlackBerry Classic, which a lot of people colloquially call it the Q20 because the previous device to it was the Q10. But yes, basically they're taking out the guts, they're ripping out the motherboard, all of the modem, everything that it uses to connect and make calls and whatnot, and putting in a whole new set. They are a little bit of an update for you. I did hear from him within the last couple of days. We are going to try and jump on another call, a recorded call like we've done in the past, once the PCB, the printed circuit board design is finalized. That's kind of the step that they're at right now, working on it, is getting that finalized so that it can go to production. And yeah, I should hopefully, fingers crossed, if everything goes to plan on their timeline, have one coming to the channel to be able to show you guys what that is like. But it's basically a BlackBerry Classic with new internals running Android and being able to work on most popular LTE bands, radio frequency bands, globally. So yes, that is something that, and I appreciate the shout out, Martin, that that you enjoy going over that. I am very excited that for that as well. AKA the Viking. That's the reason why I stopped using the minimal phone. Yes, probably referring back to that emergency that you ran into when you needed it most. It didn't work, and so yes, this is why I personally think, again, and I love the device. I mean, I am resisting the urge to throw the SIM card back into the minimal phone because I like it that much, even in its current state. But I have one, and so, folks that are thinking about ordering one, I personally recommend waiting until it shows in stock, waiting a couple more months for bug fixes, software updates to come through, and I think it will really be ready for prime time. Even in its not quite ready for prime time state, I find it to be a super great device and very, very enjoyable to use, so I think nothing but potential there. SLEKE, hello, welcome, SLEKE. I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys' URL. For those that are not familiar with SLEKE, really interesting take on intentional tech, or even maybe even veering a little bit into the digital minimalism approach as well. As opposed to, creating retro hardware or even restrictive hardware in terms of, an e-paper display on the minimal phone, as opposed to a vibrant, view in what you're able to really do, or at least do enjoyably on the device, similar to adding the QWERTY. SLEKE has taken a different approach where they have taken Pixel devices and created their own operating system, which I think you could call it a fork of the Android open source project, that makes it so that you really can only use it intentionally at all. Pull up their website here, switch over. I will get better at this, guys, I promise. So they call it Odyssey OS, where it basically is just a much more, I don't like calling it hand holding because that kind of has some negative connotations, but they go ahead and fine tune the operating system to help you use it in a way that is not distracting, and they help you by not giving you any alternative. So I am planning on getting one of these in as well. I really am excited to go over Odyssey OS and introduce that to you wonderful adventurers on the returning retro journey as well. And you can see here, look at this, out of stock. Okay, guys, it looks like this is a popular thing you've made. on Pixel 7. Yes, okay. So they did just move up to the Pixel 7, and I know that there have been a number of updates with Odyssey OS itself that are very exciting. So yes, and adding Jake mode, guys. I don't know what else to call it. Because it's not the most basic mode. You could just do calling and SMS MMS. So I didn't want to call it basic mode because it is a little bit more than that. So I was like, what? I'm Jake. I use it this way. We'll call it Jake mode. But yeah, that would be cool if I went into Odyssey OS and I saw a Jake mode toggle. That would make my day. Okay, Brandon. I see. Thanks to Viking. Yes. And everybody, please go check out AKA the Viking has an awesome channel on YouTube. Let's see if I don't think he would mind. Let's see here. YouTube.com/@AKA the Viking. There we go. So AKA the Viking is honestly the I don't want to say the straw that broke the camel's back, but he was the one. He did a video. Let me see if I can find it here, guys, just so that you can see it. 30-day review, minimal phone. This one right here. Minimal phone update, major bug fixes, and improvements. One of these two here, 30-day review, life-changing or not, or was the one, very, very well done video, guys. Please go over and check it out. But it was one that was like, hey, this is a really cool device in its current state. Maybe not perfect, but much better than it was when it first started arriving on early backers' doorsteps. And so I went ahead and took the plunge and found one used, and I'm very, very glad that I did so. Yes, please go and check him out. So back to Brandon's comment. I see, and thanks to Viking, I've been thinking of trying Google Fi, so that might give me an excuse to try out the service as well. Yeah, I mean, I tried Google Fi in the past, back when it was actually called Project Fi, and the only device that it supported was the Google Nexus 6. I think it was the Nexus 6. I'm pretty sure the Motorola collab, which was this massive device. But yeah, they just came out with a new. Let's go over to fi.google. Let me show you guys the plan that finally I was like, oh, okay, that's a good value there. You've got these two options here. So the Unlimited Essentials I thought was just really cool. So for two people, I mean, I guess we can just show it for one. $35 a month for 30 gigs of high-speed data, and then after that, I think you still have data. It's just it throttles it down to 256 kilobytes after that. So a quarter of a megabyte after that. Not great, but 30 gigs. I mean, that's a lot of high-speed data to use. I think I've only ever in my life gone over that once or twice, and it was when I was doing heavy Teams meetings for work right from my phone while traveling and stuff like that. So then naturally, if you add another person, they give you a little bit of discount, 2 for $60. That was one where I was like, okay, $30 a person. I'll try that out and see what it's like, and then ended up switching over to this unlimited standard for the sake of having that tethering ability there. But yeah, Brandon, I've been using it. I think I've had it now for about a month, and I never really had any bad experiences with US Mobile, but Fi, I've had really great experiences too. So okay, let's see. Martin, thanks for the update and all the work you do, man. Well, thank you, Martin. Thanks for stopping by. We're gonna wind it down here, guys. A couple of other things that I wanted to show you. So the SlingTV Box, another fun little. Let's go back to the camera so you can see a company that has been on the channel before. Bigme sent me a device. I reached out to them and said, hey, I would love a Highbreak Pro Color. That I'd love to introduce my viewers, my readers to it, and they responded very graciously and said, dude, those things don't even exist yet. I think they did have a yet as a part of that, but they said, but we do have a device that you might be interested in. I'll see if you guys can see it there. Is that gonna be focused? There we go. The Bigme B7. So this is a 7-inch tablet, e-reader tablet, that comes with a stylus in the box that works very well and has a SIM card slot for not only data, but it supports calling and texting as well. So unboxing video coming. They just pushed an update out for it, and they asked us to hold off on or at least me. I don't know anybody else, but they asked me to hold off until that update had come through. So yeah, I've been playing around with that a little bit. Really neat to experience color e-ink for the first time. I'd never experienced that before. It's definitely different and it's definitely cool. But I've just been enjoying this little 7-inch tablet, stylus, calling and texting while this, the reading experience is awesome. So yes, that's something that is coming. Let me, another, shoot, where did it go? I don't know. The Modita Compact has arrived. It is in the house, my friends. So going to be going over that as well. Another what from what I have seen and what I have gathered so far, great device in the intentional tech arena. So that's going to be coming on the channel here pretty soon. But the other thing, really I just wanted to talk about, we're going to be doing other things than just device reviews. That was never intended to be the primary thing of the channel. It just sort of has organically shifted that way a little bit, but other stuff to come that is a lot of fun. So hope that you guys will stick around for that. Let me think if there's anything that I am forgetting here, guys. Oh, Brandon's got another comment here. Ooh, you just unlocked a core memory for me. I forgot I had a Nexus 6. I was rocking that in an OG Moto 360 watch. Yes, the Nexus 6. What a wonderful, wonderful, cool device. I mean, this is something. Back when the pixels were not called pixels, but were called Nexus rather. This thing was just a huge device. Dual front firing speakers. I mean, it was so big. Let me see if I can find Nexus 6 versus something else. Let's go over to images. Okay, what do we have? There we go. There's a good comparison. What is this one? Is this the Pixel? Is that the 5, the 4? Pixel 5. There we go. Look at these two next to each other. It's silly, right? You have some of the specs. So yeah, you can see here, big device, and you can kind of see right in the middle on the top. Yeah, I mean, Motorola devices. I'm generally speaking, I'm a fan of Motorola devices as well. The modern ones, I know that their cameras aren't the greatest when compared to similarly priced phones from other manufacturers such as Samsung. As an example, software updates, I know they leave a lot to be desired, but I do have to give credit to Motorola for still making fun devices. Specifically, now we've got the Razrs that have come back full circle, albeit in a much different form factor. Hopefully, we will be seeing some devices hit the market that are more akin to the original Razr or the Razr V3 in the not too distant future. AKA the Viking, loving the Modita Compact so far. Yes, I'm excited for your videos, your first impressions, or your unboxings, or whatever you have in store for us. AKA the Viking. I'm excited to see those. Brendan Jordan just got here, but fully support Jake. Thank you, Brendan. Like I said, I would owe you guys one if when I get my hands on Odyssey OS, there's a Jake mode toggle. Though, granted, Odyssey OS already has a lot of built-in features to help you be by default using your device more intentionally as opposed to getting sucked in. So, guys, this has been great. I don't want to keep you any longer than that. I think I was able to cover everything that I had wanted to talk about today. Going forward, I am going to try and do a live stream every Sunday at around 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight. I do live in the Intermountain West, so I'm in the mountain time, because that's when I feel like we can get a group of people together from across the globe that with the time zone differences and whatnot. So today, like I said, we got a birthday party in the family tomorrow, so decided to try and do it tonight. So thank you all for stopping by. Go ahead. A lot of other great stuff is going to be coming. I don't want to talk about too much of it too soon, but the channel has been doing great. Seen a lot of growth, and as the channel grows, I'm hopeful that in the next few days we will hit monetization eligibility, which is going to be huge. I am in the process of working on for lack of a better term, a Patreon style availability for people that are wanting to be able to support the channel directly. That's something that I am working on kind of behind the scenes. It's not ready to go live yet, but it will hopefully be in the not too distant future, because I really want to give back to people in terms of creating some merchandise, some events I would love to do, specifically giveaways, this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I am not in a it's going to be a while before any of that can go online. And so the growth of the channel has been experiencing gives me a lot of hope that we will be able to do that sooner rather than later. So thank you all for being here. Much more fun stuff to come. Hope to see you stopping by over at Reddit. Please go out, check out SLEKE, check out AKA the Viking. Check out Screen Sensitive, all great people in the intentional tech sphere. And